do that then. What are these 6 charismatic mindsets?
So we talked a little bit about the body language and the stuff. And really, I land much more in the mindsets and the ways of being. And this is to me closer to the core. First one is, no matter what, I will be okay. And I'm feeling nervous on the way to this conversation that we're going to have. I'm in the car getting over here. I'm thinking, do I need to prepare? No matter what, I'll be okay, right? I go in here, and this is true in any social scenario. We can often bring life or death stakes to the interview, to asking the girl out, to whatever it is. Literally just saying the phrase in your head to yourself, no matter what, I will be okay, has this calming, clarifying thing that helps you focus on what you actually want to do and get out of this circumstance, and helps you stop focusing on how do I be safe? Because how do I be safe is how do I do less? How do I say less and just kill any chance of connection, right? So that's the first one. Second, I care more about my character than my reputation. It's very easy for, it would have been like, for you in that moment to, oh shoot, what are people going to think? The optics of this are not good. The leadership that you demonstrated by not just disagreeing, but by revealing your character will pay dividends, not just in how you guys handle optics. It teaches everyone on the team what matters, which is fundamentally the character, what is the case, not what looks like it is the case. And you also were able to bring it back. And I think this is the thing where we're talking about listening to criticism, is like, you didn't just hear it and reject it. No, we're not going to have a woman on the podcast. It was, if we do that, we do it for the right reasons, right? Yeah. So I care more about my character, and also the optics of, oh, I screwed up, now I have to fix it, or I screwed up, I have to dig my heels in. I think a lot of this is going on right now with Elon Musk. And the salute that he did is, I can't say, hey, I made a mistake. I can't say I didn't mean that by it. I can't do any of that. I have to dig in because I don't want to be seen to be weak, or I don't want to be seen to be
this salute thing, though.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm writing this video.
Yeah. No, so Elon Musk, if you've ever seen him on stage, he is a very eccentric,
totally,
a little bit awkward sometimes individual who goes up on stage and it's like, rah, rah, and I've literally seen videos where he's like, rah, and you know, on the red carpet, I don't know if you saw that, it's like that red carpet walk that he did, where he starts going like,
yeah, he's making weird faces.
This is him. So I'm not defending him at all, but if you have a lens of empathy and you look at the bigger picture, and you also say, listen, this guy has no track record of not saying what he thinks. So if he tells me that wasn't what he was doing in that moment, he has no track record of like holding his tongue.
Yeah.
And I it's funny because I consider myself to be apolitical, but one of the things that really turned me off when I saw the commentary around that was the left side of politics didn't seem to exert any, what's the word? It was just the reaction was so predictable. I watched the video and thought, oh no, he's just being Elon Musk. That's what he does on stage. Just a bit wacky. And then the whole like, oh no, he's a Nazi. This is a Nazi salute. I just thought, I find it to be disingenuous.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton here. Politically, I think this is why the left loses elections.
Yeah,
it's because there's so much winning. There's so much happening that you could critique today. Trump launched a meme coin. You know what I mean? Like there's like, you could speak on so many things, and to put the focus on this is why they continue to lose elections in the United States of America, because I agree with you. I don't see any reason to believe that this is a hidden reveal of Elon's politics as regards the Third Reich at all. It's like the guy's a weird dude who moves weird, and he literally afterwards said, my heart goes out to you. And his response to it on Twitter, which is complicated by the mass media, right? Because I'm going to make this video too. The ability to say sorry in personal relationships is fundamental and critical. And if you can't own your mistakes and apologize to someone, you will erode every relationship that you ever have, because you will make mistakes. And if you can't repair them, it's like a bridge that never gets any maintenance. It doesn't work.
Do you think he should have said sorry?
This is the question when we're talking about a couple of things: mass media. And then I think there's a space between sorry and that wasn't my intention. And instead what he did was, because I think what he should have said was, that wasn't my intention. What he said instead was he made a bunch of puns about like different Nazi stuff, like random things. But do I think he should say sorry? No, I don't think he should say sorry.
If he said sorry, can you imagine the mainstream media?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. So this is the problem. I'm going to make this video, which is, if you look at this is tragic. The way that we have culturally ruined saying sorry, like with our media, because if you look at the most powerful men, Andrew Tate, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, they all got the memo. Never apologize. Never, ever, ever. It doesn't matter what you did. Never apologize. And what do you get as a result? More power, right? Because when you do say sorry, even if it's appropriate, and even if it would have been appropriate in a private circumstance to do that, the outcome in the media loop, if you look at, you could take someone going back to like Aziz Ansari, who had a Me Too situation where the girl was unhappy with how the date went, but it was all consensual, but she felt pressured by him. And he went on a like very deep, heartfelt apology. Destroyed, end of his show, completely over for him. Years later, people look back at that story with a different cultural lens and go, yes, you're sorry for that. Of course, that makes sense, because that's the appropriate response. I'm really sorry. That wasn't what I wanted. That wasn't my intent. I didn't want it to go that way. Or I didn't want you to feel that way as well. And that human response translated to the mass media is so destructive to your career, it's really tragic, because that's the type of thing that you would want to have two people hash out and find resolution to themselves, but doesn't appear to be possible in global media today.
It happens on both sides. It's the right mischaracterizing the left mischaracterizing the right. And I, especially through this election cycle, I just saw that over and over again, because as someone who genuinely believes, when I'm at home alone and I'm watching these videos, genuinely believes that I'm apolitical. I find good things on both sides. I find things on the left that I think that's correct. And I find things on the right, especially as it relates to some things around business, that I think, okay, I think that's the best thing. And I look at both sides, I think objectively, and I'm saying I think because I never really know my own biases, and I think you're both lying about each other. And this is the kind of world we've gotten into now where, as you say, it's like there's no hope for truth anymore, it seems. Do you own a business or do you work in marketing? If that's you, listen up for a valuable opportunity from our show sponsor, LinkedIn. I'm an investor in about 40-odd companies. And while they operate in different industries, they all face one challenge, maybe the most important challenge when it comes to marketing: getting their brand in front of the right audiences. We can probably all think of times when we've been scrolling on social media and received an ad that absolutely wasn't relevant to us. LinkedIn has now grown to a network of over 1 billion professionals, including 130 million decision makers, which means you can specifically target your buyers by job title, seniority, industry, even company revenue. So stop wasting your marketing budget on the wrong audience and start targeting the right crowd through LinkedIn now. And because you're part of my community, LinkedIn is offering you a $100 credit for your next campaign. Head to linkedin.com/diary to claim yours now. That's linkedin.com/diary. And of course, terms and conditions apply, and only available on LinkedIn ads. Is Trump charismatic?
The most charismatic. Yeah. So if we interpret charisma as the ability to succeed based on force of personality, right? If that's one view of it, the ability to influence and succeed, you have to give it to people that you might not agree with. And Donald Trump absolutely gets that. So does Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for the record, right? These people that are not there for their technical prowess, but are there for their ability to speak, definitely. I think what I've heard is that he's likable in person, like a lot of people that meet him like him, and he has this thing that I haven't totally identified that drives the left crazy, but it needs to be, rather than being demonized, I want to explore it. I want to understand what it is he's like very tough to stay mad at, in the sense that what he did, he's repeatedly in his base forgiven for things that would have been upsetting to them and would be upsetting if any other Republican said or did the things that he does. There is a relationship, I think, that he has with shame. And so if you look, it's like the first debate that he ever did. Boom, here comes the question. You call women fat pigs. You know, this is career ender right here. What are you going to say?
You call women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account... Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Well, the audience erupts and Megyn Kelly can't get a word in, and it was an entire campaign of that, like Teflon. Nothing sticks to him. And so you don't have to like it for there to be something meaningful there. And I actually want to go back, because I think the most impressive thing that he's done is not win the presidency. I think the Democrats fielded some less than excellent candidates, but my God, the way he took over the Republican primaries was insane. Because if you go back and watch those debates, which I currently am.
The first time?
The first time.
Oh yeah, I watched it all.
Entirely against him. He doesn't have an audience on his side. There is no one that is on his side. And to watch him go down the line, take out Jeb, take out Ted, take out Marco, and win the entire audience blow by blow is fascinating to me.
You're someone that analyzes this.
Yeah.
So what did you, because I've watched all of those debates. In fact, I've watched them so many times, those Republican debates with like Jeb and his weak energy. And I can't remember what he was calling Ted Cruz. It's like Lion Cruz or something.
Lion Ted.
Yeah, Lion Ted. I've watched all of those, but you watch it and you go, this is atypical behavior.
Yeah.
This is not how to be a president. What is he doing right there?
I think that is the thing. He's like, he is him through and through. Like there's not a crack in him. And so many times, this is when people criticize you or criticize anybody, one of the things you'll see is, let's say that there's a comedian and they're on stage and somebody's heckling him and say, you can't tell that joke. That's bad. If you crack in that moment, more of the audience says, ooh, I don't know if you should have said that. But when you double down and triple down and quadruple down and endlessly down, you actually take more people with you. And this guy doesn't crack. Anytime he's attacked, I don't think he has defense in his repertoire. Like every time it's offense. So whenever somebody comes at him, he doesn't respond. He barely responds. That's not true. He goes, you should see what he's doing. You know, it's always, always offense. He's willing to brawl in those situations. And I think we are animals. There is especially in that Republican primary, people like Jeb, there's a simple thing of like, oh, this guy just owned that, right? He just completely made him seem like a child who was interacting with an adult. Like as he whimpered away or trailed off, this is something that I teach people is when you're speaking, just as a matter of habit, and you can break this rule once you've established it, but if you're a shy person, finish your sentence before you let someone cut you off. Find a period. And then the other person can jump in. But if we're talking and you jump in and I just sort of trail away, has this sense of fragility, weakness, and it encourages people to speak over you. If you look especially at the first debate, the people that he was arguing against got run off constantly. And they hoped that the moderator would bring them back into the debate. And it's not ideal that politics works like that, but it was a bludgeoning game. It was just like he makes these people look weak in front of them as he dictates the pace and what's going to happen. And he's not listening to anybody. And the audience starts lining up behind him. It was, yeah, I have to go back, and the video will have much more precise moments of this. But that is what I've seen. Is just I've started to compile things.
So that was the second.
That's the second.
Yeah, of the charisma.
We're going to do this.
Number 3.
Well, so I'm glad that we're doing it in this order because it gets the caveats out of the way, which is the third one is I have impeccable honesty and integrity. Mm-hmm. And you can see how exactly what we were talking about is like, well, not really. There's ways in which power moves, not always following honesty and integrity. But when I think of that deeper form of charisma, the kind where like Socrates, Jesus, like the people that are not just charismatic for a time, but are charismatic forever. And we look to as paragons of who we want to be and have this leadership quality that is not just transactional, but moves people to become better versions of themselves, which is ultimately what I aspire to. And I suppose I've used charisma in 2 different terms. One is, can you influence? And the other is, do you awaken the best in people? If we're using that second term, I am honest and I have high integrity is fundamental to that, because what I found is that even if you tell small lies, for instance, you're running late, you text your friend, I'm on the way. You're not on the way. You got to brush your teeth. You got to get ready. You train this learning in yourself that is, sometimes I lie. Sometimes I'm not to be trusted. And when you lie sometimes, you hurt your ability to speak with conviction all the time, because there's some part of your brain that is going, am I telling the truth? Am I saying the real thing? Because sometimes I don't. And so it influences your capacity to influence with conviction and for people to know that you stand by your belief.
What's really interesting is something exactly what you've said. I noticed in a friend of mine, and I had to say, we're really great friends, and we've been friends for a long, long time, but I can't trust you because I see you telling small lies to other people.
That's so brave of you.
Which makes me think that you tell, when you speak to me, I have to figure out what the truth is. And this is something which I think ties into point 3 here, which is if you observe someone willing to tell tiny lies to other people, even exaggerating stories knowingly, when you know the truth, you know that X didn't happen, you go, oh my God, maybe the things they tell me as well aren't true.
Yeah, so it erodes it in all different places. One of the things that I didn't catch early on that you just brought up was I sometimes had there were things that I wouldn't say. Like I wouldn't have that conversation with a friend. I wouldn't bring that to them. And that is a lapse in integrity, because look, I have this opinion, I have this feeling, you're someone I care about, but I'm not going to say it to you because I don't want to create friction, or I don't want to do this. I'm not going to lie to you about it. I'm not going to tell you I trust you implicitly, but I'm just not going to bring it up.
It took me 9 years to get to that point with this person.
It's hard. It's very hard. But when you do that, God, it is such a deep form of love. It is such a deep form of respect, and it respects the deepest part of that person, which is, I know that these are your behaviors, but there's a you in there that is deeper than these habits that you have. And I want to speak to that person because I want you to know that I would like to connect with you and I would like to trust you, but I can't because of this. I think that is an aspect of friendship that is often overlooked, which is you've got your friends that you have fun with. You've got your friends that celebrate you. Which friends do you have that will lovingly pull you aside and tell you these sorts of things? There are usually vanishingly few. And when you get them, if you're someone who watches this show, probably it's deeply appreciated, especially when it's done in a loving and respectful way. So when you can be that for someone else, it's a relationship maker.
But you're right in what you said earlier. I have to be the one that leads with it. What's that phrase you used?
Well, that's the 6th one. Yeah.
Right. So number 4.
So number 4, I don't need to convince anyone of anything.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of times we think, I need this girl to like me. I need to make the sale. If this employee joins the company, it's going to be great. I need this particular individual to like me. All the tips and tricks and mindsets and whatever it is that we're talking about today, I hope you take broadly to your life to increase the percentage, to increase the odds that are something good. But with any particular individual, you do not want to drop into convincing them. You want to live invitationally to people. There's an invitation to connect. There's an invitation to sell. I'm willing to go there and tell you more about the product. I'm willing to share more about the things that I care about. But when you get stuck on convincing people, they feel that there's something missing in you that needs something from them, right? And when you do that, particularly with loose connections, it's very alienating. Now, there are times when this isn't about convincing, where it's appropriate in a relationship with like a husband and a wife to communicate clearly your needs. This doesn't mean you convince them, but it means you do state what you're wanting and needing in the relationship. But there is convincing is when you won't drop it, when you won't put it down, that you won't accept someone's answer as it is. And much more important than convincing is filtering. And this is, you could have tried to convince everyone in your initial friend group that they should all be entrepreneurs, they should all do this, and you'd still be there today working on getting the next person to agree and have no businesses and no podcast. But when you stop trying to convince and you reveal yourself, make invitations, I'm going this way, who would like to come with me? I'm selling this product, who would like to buy it? Yes, I'm going to learn how to talk about it in a compelling and interesting way that speaks directly to your problems, but I'm not going to convince you. So much more powerful.
This is like a pretty incredible sales tip. I was thinking about even on marketing copy when you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to force it down someone's throat versus inviting them, if they're the right type of person for it, to give it a try.
And it's the long game too. Like the short game is I need to make rent this month. I need to make a sale. And we all have situations in our life where we feel that pressure. But if you build your business or your relationships from this level of I'm not going to convince anybody, the sustainability of them is so much better because now you don't have relationships that require you to be like, come on, come out tonight. You know you want to do that. You have people that opt in when they want to and can step aside when they don't. And your relationships flow much more organically when you drop the convincing.
With or without you energy.
Yes.
People talk about that.
Yes. Invitational. Yeah.
Invitation energy.
So the fifth is that I proactively share my purpose. And I think this podcast like sets people up to do that in an excellent way. But this is where I talk about early in the interaction. There's so many times where we just don't talk about what we care about. We talk about the small talk. We talk about the weather of the baseball team. Making sure that you are sharing with people the things that you care most deeply about and that you're here to do is so powerful. So
high charisma.
I believe high charisma. If you think, I don't know if you remember the show, but it was very influential to me. There were these guys that buried life a long time ago when MTV used to run TV shows. And they were guys who had their own bucket list. And on every episode, they would go scratch an item off of their bucket list. And at the end, they would help a stranger in the street. They would say, what's an item on your bucket list? And they would do that with them. And in their second season, one of their bucket list items was play basketball with Obama. And so they walked around Washington, D.C. and just said, hey, we have this thing. We're the buried life. We want to play basketball with Obama. We're trying to prove that you can live your dream. Can you help? And it just went bang, bang, bang down the line. And within like 3 days, they're in a senator's office, right? Just from sharing, this is what I'm doing. This is what I care about. Can you help? They didn't have anything to exchange. They didn't have anything other than the participation in a dream. And when you are connected to your dream, like the real one, not the one that's like, I want to make enough money, but the one that is, oh my God, that's like, I want to prove to people that anything is possible and it's real. People like to participate in that. They like to give help in order to do that. So what wound up happening is that the senator reached out, they set up a meeting and Barack flaked. He flaked. He didn't show he had something come up. So they aired the episode and they never got to play with him. Except episode airs, Barack's in the White House with MTV on in the background and he sees these guys, the buried life, talking about how they want to play basketball with Obama. And he contacts his aide. He says, why haven't I played basketball with these guys yet? And the same aide who had heard, he said, well, we had something come up that day. We couldn't do it. He says, get them out here. And so they went and they played basketball at the White House with Barack Obama. And it came from just sharing their purpose with people.
Is that what manifestation is?
I think if manifestation is just thinking happy thoughts and waiting for them to happen, that to me is wishful thinking. But yeah, if it's putting your energy and your intent and your request for support behind the thing that is most important to you, like that's the reality of manifestation. And I think that's why a lot of people like Conor McGregor, you know, when they hit these places, they talk about the power of manifestation. I think are often misinterpreted because it's not just seeing it or thinking about it. It's putting your full life force behind it, reaching out, asking for help, and contributing your part of the pie as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It's really, really important. Number six.
We've said this one before. I go first in humanizing the interaction.
Humanizing the interaction.
Yes, which is to say, whenever you're with a group of people, there is an expected social norm, right? And it is usually less than people wish that it was. It's the thing that you described earlier as, I wish that my employees would get to what's really going on. And it's the ability to be the first one, like I told the story about my brother, to crack the joke about the dragon name tag, right? And that made everybody in the event funnier. Now they don't want to crack jokes and they don't want to be playful. It's the ability to give a compliment first. Sometimes people are afraid that it'll disrupt their status if they're too complimentary. And we did talk about how at the beginning of an interaction, it's useful to establish fun, trust, and respect, but then feel free to pour it on, right? Compliments, and then vulnerability, right? Going first, sharing the vulnerable thing. There's a fine line, of course, between trauma dumping and just outpouring without checking if the other person is with you and wanting to go there with you. But yeah, to dive into the thing that is unsettled in you or that hurts or that you're working on and you're not sure about, man, we go there first. It's like the room transforms around that. It's like everyone's like, oh, me too. Yeah, I'm also struggling. Yeah, I also wish we could laugh more. Yeah, I also am I love that person's sense of style, but didn't want to be weird and say so. So when you go first in humanizing the interaction, it is the essence of leadership.
Sharing your imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this in one of your videos. That's kind of what you're talking about there, right? It's being willing to show the chinks in your own armor.
Yes, it is. I think a lot of people like me have an idea that charisma is looking like someone else that they admire. It is, and they don't know that person's internal dialogue, right? They don't know all the internal questioning is going on inside of them. And when instead you can start with where you are, which so people will ask me, how do I deal with anxiety? And one of the things that I've said, and I've done it a handful of times on this podcast, is speak to it. Like, I felt nervous when I was coming in here. Like if the thing comes up inside of you and it feels like you can't say it, give it a risk, say it. It often creates a depth of connection that you wouldn't be anticipating.
What about humor? Being funny?
Being funny. So we haven't talked about this, but there's I think about charismatic types of people. The 5 types that I think of are high conviction, authentic, funny, empathetic, and energetic. And so basically, high conviction are people that they're that belief storm that when they encounter you, they just win. That's Conor McGregor. Like, he's 19 years old, pimple-faced guy saying he's going to be a champion of the world without a waver in his eye. Steve Jobs, the story of Mike Scully, who was one of his chief officers who came and worked for him. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Do you know what he said to him?
What did he say?
So they're having a meeting and Scully's not going to join. And he says, do you want to sell flavored sugar for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?
And Scully was at Pepsi at the time?
Yeah, he was at Pepsi. And so he says, ugh.
That's big,
Yeah.
big dick energy, right?
Yeah. And so there's this belief that I'm going to change the world and this solidness behind it, that's high conviction. Donald Trump is high conviction, right? Guy, when he loses election, he doesn't lose elections, right? It's a level of certainty that he's going to win that is just next level. So that's one type of charisma. It's incredibly powerful. There's downsides to it. It can be difficult to integrate feedback. And I think you've seen that with like Conor McGregor. You know, it's when you develop high conviction, it's also really important to have some areas of your life where you're able to listen and we're able to integrate feedback. Anyway, there's the authentic type. I think Trump has a degree of this as well.
This is number 2, right?
This is number 2. But the way that it's a different kind of authenticity, I suppose, than Trump, which is I trust this person exactly to say what they think in front of me, whether I like it or I don't. And I think Joe Rogan got big off the back of this. This was the, like, if Joe disagrees with that guy, he's not gonna be rude to him, but you're gonna know about it, right? He is going to have his comedian friend on that he wants to have on because he wants to have him on. And when you do authenticity over a period of time, it creates just unshakable trust. Like, I've seen this person do things that could be damaging to our relationship and just continue to move forward. So I know that they're not trying to please me with their behavior, and I can trust the things that they say, and I can trust the things that they do, and I can rely on them. I feel safe to rely on them. That's the authentic type. Third type is funny. These are your comedians. These people are just fun to be around. Like, you hang out with them, they're cracking jokes the whole time. They bring a levity. Everyone else is talking literally, and they're going to bring in something that is just non-literal. So any comedian is going to fit this. Your Kevin Hart's, your whoever. Take your pick. Empathetic. To me, Oprah is the paragon, but I think you have become the Oprah of the podcasting world in many ways.
That's a massive compliment.
But empathetic people they do really, really well one-on-one, and they help other people to feel seen. Right? They ask a question with a sincerity that makes the other person share the thing that they might not have shared in many other groups. And we all deeply want to feel safe to share ourselves, but we don't because we're in louder groups or all different sorts of things. So when we get in contact with an empathetic person, they might not talk very much, but man, do we leave liking that person. Like, oh, you had a great conversation. We need to do that again. And then the last one is your energetic type. This is probably the easiest one to add. I think of early Will Smith. I think of the way that people walk onto talk shows where they would come onto Jimmy Fallon dancing onto the stage or something like that. This is an individual who may not be very witty with their humor, but they make people smile because the energy that they bring to an interaction is just like 2 degrees higher than you would expect, right? So he doesn't need to be like funny, haha, can crack a joke, but the guy who's first on the dance floor at the wedding is like, committed to the thing. That's energetic. And I think Jack Black is someone who has a comment. He is funny, like he can crack a joke, but the energy that he brings to everything he does is what sells it. So this comes from commitment to the bit, right? You don't like start off dancing like this and then look around and realize nobody likes it and stop.
Yeah.
It's if you're able to sustain a level of energy, enthusiasm, and positivity that is 1 or 2 degrees higher than the people in the room. At first there's like, I don't know. And then they join in because everybody wants to relax and dance and feel better, or at least to witness people doing that. And when it's committed, that's when it really, really works.
So when I think about these 5 charisma types that you talk about, you could be several of them and you could potentially be all of them.
Yeah.
So someone could be high conviction, authentic, funny, energetic, and empathetic.
Sure.
And is that like the holy grail?
That's like the singularity where the universe explodes. No, you're right. You could be all of these. I do find that conviction and empathetic tend to move in opposites of one another. Like, I wouldn't expect Conor McGregor to like hold space for me very well. So but that's not required, right? You can have a degree of conviction.
Obama. He struck me as being high conviction at times.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And also empathetic when he cried on the stage after the Sandy Hook thing.
I think he's a great example of those moving up
He's
together.
also authentic. He's funny.
Yeah.
Energetic, I guess. I mean, he rolled people up.
He's a generational talent as a politician. So he's definitely next level. That's the other thing. I've started to look back at some of the presidents that we've had, and we've had some statesmen that have been, you can have your opinion on them, but when I look at the people that have won, they're the charisma candidate in a lot of the cases.
Isn't it crazy?
And I don't think it's that crazy. That's the thing. We tend to overlook it and then pretend that we live in a world based on rubric merit as opposed to this is literally a popularity contest.
How did this person make me feel?
Yeah. How do I feel when I'm around them? Or how do I feel when I witness them on stage? Do I believe that I can trust them without ever having had a one-to-one conversation? So he's a charisma freak. He's incredibly high charisma.
What you just said there just goes to highlight how important these skills are. Because if you can rise to the top of society and become the leader of the free world by mastering charisma, like Dave at his job, or like me as a podcaster, it just goes to show that like talent and merit and skills and maybe even my education are secondary to my ability to make people feel a certain way.
I think let me see if this is true. Certainly true in LA to a ridiculous level. But even in the industry that I was in, which was consulting, I wound up getting off-cycle raises, preferential treatment, though even decades later, I feel strange saying it on camera. And it was, like I said, there were better analysts than me. There were guys that I liked that I went to help me with my work. And it was not because I was the best analyst. It was because I had established relationships with people that liked me and wanted me to do well. And it's obvious, what is nepotism other than familial connection, right? And so if you just remove the family from it, that's charisma. That's this person cares and wants me to do well and likes me, but it's not nepotism. It's something else. It's a charismatic connection that you have with that person.
Health is a huge focus for me in 2025. And I'm not just talking about eating right and exercising, I'm talking about my recovery too. I'm halfway through 60 workouts in 60 days. And to help my body recover, I've been using a health gadget that I've shared with you before. They're a sponsor of this podcast and their product has such a huge impact on my recovery. I'm referring to my Bon Charge infrared sauna blanket. These are similar to the infrared saunas that you see in gyms and spas, but the big difference is that it's portable. I started the year off at my home in South Africa, so I brought the blanket with me and I used it most nights before bed when I was training hard. And it helped me relax, it helped my muscles feel less sore, and I wake up feeling more recovered. It works by heating up your body directly rather than just the air around you to improve circulation and reduce stiffness. I've also noticed that it's had a big impact on my skin as well. And thankfully, Bon Charge has offered me 25% off for my listeners. So if you use code DIARY at checkout, you'll also get free shipping and a year-long warranty. Head to boncharge.com/diary. Your gut and my gut is the home of our digestion, and it's also a gateway to better health. But it can be hard to know what's going on in there. Zoe, who sponsors this podcast, has one of the largest microbiome databases on the planet and one of the world's most advanced at-home gut health tests. Their blood sugar sensor, which I have in this box in front of me, goes on your arm so you can see how different foods impact your blood sugar. Then there's the at-home blood sample, which is really easy and analyzes your body's blood fat. And of course, the famous Blue Zoe cookie, which tests your metabolism. Oh, and I can't forget, there's also a poo sample, which is a critical step in understanding the health of your microbiome. And you post it all to Zoe and you get your results back, which will help you to understand your body's response to different foods. Using your results, Zoe's app will also create a personalized nutrition plan for you. And this is exactly why I invested in the business. So my question to you is, how healthy is your gut? Head to zoe.com to order your kit and find out. And because you're one of our listeners, use code Steven10 for 10% off your membership. Head to zoe.com now. How do I use this idea of charisma and body language and interpersonal skills to improve my prospects in work, whether that's in an interview setting for a new job or if I'm looking for a promotion?
So the first thing that I always thought about with interviews and trained people to think about was the interview does not start when you land in the room with that person who has got the piece of paper in front of them with your resume. It starts when you leave your house. If you're taking an Uber, you need to talk to the Uber driver, right? You need to get warm. You need to get comfortable. You need to get those vocal cords moving. You need to be dynamic. When you enter the building, if it's a large building and it has a security guard, one more sentence. Remember, hey, how's it going? You see a lot of fresh faces in here, you know? Yeah. Hopefully this is not the last time you see me. That type of a thing. It just makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. Instead of reviewing whatever technical stuff that you think you need to know, that needs to be dropped before the interview. That's either in there or it's not, like 15, 30 minutes in advance. Then you go upstairs, there's a secretary, same thing. There's other candidates, same thing. By the time you sit down across from that person, you're warm. You're ready to go, and you're not starting from zero in order to be an engaging human, because there are going to be those initial questions. Did you get in all right? Did you do this? Just a little bit extra, and it's going to be attuned to the situation, but it'll come through.
And you've opened a couple of tabs on the way here, right?
Exactly. Like, how'd you get in? And be like, yeah, I met Rick at the door. He's awesome. Right? Like that's going to help. So that's the number one thing. And then in interviews, you don't know what questions you're going to get asked, but if you can take what you're going to get asked and put it into a story format, and have a beginning, middle, and an end that has like an up, down, up sort of curve to it. And what I mean is that they're going to say, tell me about something that you really struggled with in your career. And if in advance you have thought through your career and you have the three big moments that happened to you, which is you took over this project, you quit this job and moved to this one, and you did this other thing. And then you backwards figure out the story of those. And so the story has this agitating, it's got you establish that I was working at this company and then there was a problem. And then you agitate the problem. It was really bad and no one could solve it. No one could figure it out. And so I did X, Y, and Z. And as a result, it turned out really well. And then this other thing happened. You get 3 to 5 of those things that you know are your core stories. You have no idea what questions are coming, but I promise you, you're going to slot those 5 things into it. Mm-hmm. So you will not be surprised in the moment if there's a question that you haven't prepared for or heard, because probably there's a story when it comes, this is the fit portion of the interview, that you have your story ready. And it demonstrates any of the values that you think this company wants, which is I'm tenacious, I work hard, I know the industry, and I can work well with people. Mm-hmm. That's built into your stories. And then one tip is that at the end of an interview, there's always that moment where they say, do you have any questions for us? And what I've seen sitting on the other side of the table is people either ask a question they don't really have because they feel like they're supposed to, or they say, no, I don't have any questions. And it's just a missed opportunity. And so this one, I have to give credit to my co-founder. He came up with, and this is one of the things I did not anticipate. I got the most positive responses. Like, I got the job because of this question type of a thing. And the question is, okay, so let's say that this interview went really well and a year from now I got the job and you're looking back. What would I have had to have done in order for you to feel like it was a good decision? Like, what things will I have had to have done in that role? And so typically the person goes, I like that. That's a really good question. And it does a handful of things. One, you've gotten them to imagine the interview going really well and them hiring you, right? And then second, they're going to lay out for you exactly what you need to do in the role to excel. And that is something that every boss wants. It's like, I want you interested in knowing what I need from you in order to do a good job. And you can take that same principle and you could bring it into conversations if you want to get a raise sooner than you think you were going to. So you go in and say, hey, I'd like to get a raise. You can make it clear. I'd like to do it faster than usual, but I want to make sure that's totally worth it for you. So 6 months from now or 8 months from now, in order for me to get this raise, what would I have had to have done for it to be a no-brainer, obvious to you that this was valuable? And then they will go and tell you the things that you could do. And if it's a company that says, no, you can't, maybe you don't want to work there, but they'll just give you the playbook and then do those things, keep up with that person, and you're now off track for promotions, right? You're not just doing whatever they say. And the bummer is you might have done those things anyway, but if you don't have that conversation in advance, they're not going to give you a raise in most cases.
So interesting, because this could be applied to like anybody in any role that is selling anything. I'm thinking of a personal trainer who meets their client on the first day and says, 6 months from now, what would I have done to have made you happy? Or I'm thinking of, marketing industries, agencies turning to their clients at the start and saying, if we're still working together in 12 months and you're really happy, what would I have done?
Yeah.
And they'll lay out exactly how they want to be treated and their expectations.
Yes.
So you can meet and exceed them.
Yes. Yeah. And it shows that you care in that initial moment.
You mentioned something earlier on, which you said you were in South America and you thought your life was going to be focused on figuring out how to pick up women.
Yeah.
What are women attracted to in your opinion? I know this is somewhat stereotyping and generalized, but are there anything that as a man I could do to make myself more attracted to a woman and vice versa?
When I see men approach women, particularly in the US, every culture is different. I've lived in a number of different places. There's that moment where they're just sussing out, does he feel like he has a right to speak to me or not? And sometimes they're not immediately warm. And by immediately, I mean in the first 5 seconds. And there's a difference between the guys that I've seen get more comfortable and they just ride that 5 to 10 to 15 seconds out and then the women are laughing, and the guys that take that first initial bit of she didn't initially like love everything that I said, and then they go, okay, and they walk away. So conviction is a huge, huge piece of it. I think another big element is that a lot of guys come in with just, man, they have these boring habits. And I don't think they can conceive of what it's like to be a woman and get asked the same boring thing 10 million times. And this is true on dating apps and it's true in the bar. So on dating apps, it's hey, right? Or something like that. In a bar, it's do you come here often? It's what is your major or something like that. So having any sort of initial line that is just not that, right? Make it true. You don't need to tell a fake story. But the one that I fell back on in so many different social circumstances was, hey, I don't think I've met you yet. I'm Charlie. And the reason I love this is one, it's portable. It can be a house party, it can be a bar, it can be whatever. But unspoken in that is that I'm the type of person who knows a lot of people here, which I didn't say that,
it's true.
But it comes through in that. It's like, I'm the man about town. Like, I know different people here. So that was always just an easy one to have. And I think to have that in your back pocket is very helpful. But in terms of what they want, the first thing is just general human attraction. And this isn't like, I want to sleep with you, or I want to marry you. It's just, do I want to engage in conversation with you? Do you have an interesting story? Am I excusing myself at the first minute to go to the bathroom? First chance I get. Is she filling in gaps in conversation with her own contributions, or do you have to carry the entire load yourself? That's how you know if you have that basic human attraction. Doesn't mean that she likes you or wants to be with you. It just means that she's down to converse and interact with you. The second thing that is probably one that most guys miss is, do you authentically have and have you communicated to her that you have standards beyond her being beautiful? And for most men, this is just a no. This is unfortunately, if they look back on their lives and they go, okay, has there ever been a time where I was physically attracted to someone and she did something that made me go, okay, I'm not interested anymore, whether it was be rude to a waiter or unkind or cold, or just not have fun in the way that I would like to have fun, which doesn't mean she's a bad person, just means she's not a match for me. So many men, especially when they're younger, don't have standards. They have that one standard. So the weird thing about that is it feels like, oh, well, if I have a standard, I have a smaller group of people that are going to work with me. But actually, women want to be liked for more than their looks. People want to be appreciated for their inside, for who they are as a person. And if you can't feel and communicate that, oh man, like I often go out, I don't meet people that I have as much fun with as you. You're so funny. Or like, I love how affectionate you are. Like most people wouldn't come onto the dance floor with me and we're the only ones out here, or whatever it is. If you can communicate to her that you have a standard that she is hitting and that is making you aware that you're a match for her, it shifts that power balance from she's on a pedestal because she's beautiful and I'm going to pursue her the whole time to genuinely you come in and you're actually filtering for these things. So you will be subconsciously wanting to find the person who's going to go cut up the dance floor with you, or trying to find the person that is affectionate as opposed to the person who is a bit colder.
Is there an element to this as well where people will shit test you? Like they will test to see if you have standards.
Yes.
Because if men and women, so I will subtly, because I heard about this thing called shit testing where like someone will subtly mistreat you to see how you react.
Yeah.
And if you react in that moment and you just kind of accept it and tolerate it, they'll therefore treat you in the future in the same way. But also they will be less attracted to you and view you as lower status. Whereas she might show up 45 minutes late, and if you're still sat there, then that in and of itself is showing that you'll kind of tolerate anything and that she's or he is higher status than you.
Yeah. At the beginning of one of my relationships that wound up being a multi-year relationship, but we were just sort of getting started, and I remember we had plans to meet on a Sunday night, and I had been very amenable up until this point. She canceled, and I said, no problem, canceled, no problem. And I saw what was happening. I'm breaking my own rule. I'm moving plans in order to make space with her. And so we have a thing Sunday night. It's 9 p.m. We're supposed to meet at 10. She calls me and says that, sorry, I can't come. I'm with my family, and I'm going to, I just can't make it. Also, unfortunately, this week, I have this thing on Monday and this other thing Tuesday, and then I have work Thursday, Friday night. So the only way that I can see you this week is going to be Wednesday night. And I had earlier that day made plans to go out with my friends on Wednesday night. And though it was a challenge for me, I thought about this earlier and I said, oh, that's a bummer. Then I don't think I'm going to be able to see you this week. She said, what do you mean? I have plans on Wednesday. Well, what, then we're not going to be able to see each other. And she starts getting upset and nervous. I don't know what to tell you. I just am not free on Wednesday. Okay, let me call you back. And she calls me back in 15 minutes. Okay, I'm going to come over.
Oh my God, you just reminded me of so many investment conversations I've had with founders who pitch me their business and email me and go, Steve, we've got £1 million left in this round. You can put the million in, but we need to know in 3 days' time because we've got so much interest. And I remember one over the Christmas break where I said, don't worry about it. I can't give you an answer in 3 days. I take 2 weeks to speak to my team, do some analysis, due diligence. I come back 2 weeks later and I go, we're not interested. Is there any way you might be interested, please? You told me there was 3 days for me to make a decision at first. And I told you I didn't want to do that. I took 2 weeks. I came back and said no. And now you're chasing me?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how, but you can't, the problem with this as advice is it has to be true.
Yes. Don't play,
games.
Okay. At first I understand. You're 18. You've got nothing on your social calendar. You technically are available every minute of the day to be with this girl that you would really like to be with. The advice is often just say no, that you can't hang out when she does it, which I think is very confusing. Instead, fill your calendar. You start to build your life outside of this thing. If you're this business, get other options on the table. Have other balls in the air that are going for you. So it's a hack, but starting to calendar your social life, which is not something I like to be very flexible. But when you have that, it actually makes you much more charismatic. And I see this all the time. So there is something to this. Don't play the game. You don't need to fake it. But if you find that this is not working in your life, start to take steps to fill your calendar. Even if one night is like, on Tuesdays, I watch this TV show and then take a luxurious bath after. No, sorry, I can't do it Tuesday. And this can all get adjusted when you're in a relationship and it's ongoing. There's a give and take that is, of course, going to occur. But man, there's these power games that people play. There's these who is more in demand. And like it or not, it has an impact.
I went through some of your best performing videos of all time on your channel. And it was interesting that I could see kind of themes in them. Right, I could see several of the best performing videos had similar themes. And one of the really prominent themes was 5 habits that make people instantly dislike you.
So that's a video about Brie Larson. And around the time of the Avengers Captain Marvel thing, she had a string of interviews that were pretty alienating to people. Some of the things that she did, goodness, it was having to win every joke exchange. They're talking about, for instance, who's the most powerful Avenger, right? And they're sort of being playful with each other. Like, well, Thor's the most powerful. And she adopts this attitude of, well, actually, my character would kill yours. And there's a well, actually quality. Like, well, actually, I would win. Actually, I would win. Actually, your character is just a mere mortal and I would win. And it is like cute once, but it becomes frustrating to have someone have to win every banter exchange between friends. And so I think people saw that and they saw some of the reactions of the cast. And so that's one, is like to have to win every banter exchange and have a burn that you come out on top of. Not a good one. Another one that she did is to interpret ambiguous communications negatively. So for instance, in this particular video that I did, she's on that Wired autocomplete interview. And there's one question that is, does Brie Larson work out? And in a way that doesn't, at least to Americans, like clearly communicate sarcasm. Maybe it's different to Brits. I don't know. You guys have a different cultural code. She says something to the effect of like, is that a personal attack?
Really?
Yeah. And then she doesn't laugh. And she also, so there's two options there. You could say, is that a personal attack? And then you could laugh, right? Or you could say, is that a personal attack? everyone on the internet thinks that I'm so fat, just trying to jump on me. I'm trying to lose weight. Like you can double and triple down until it's clear that you're being absurd.
Yeah.
But she said it once, and it came through as hyper defensive. And the thing that I talk about is you want to interpret ambiguous communications charitably. This is a big one. This is one of, like, if you've watched the show Ted Lasso, this is full of this. People will come up to him, and I just did a video that had this clip where he's on the airplane. If you know Ted Lasso, he's an American guy going to England, and somebody says, you know, you're going to coach the football team, the soccer team for us in England. Man, they're so bad. This is going to go horribly. You're a legend. And then he responds, well, you know, I haven't lost yet. And he's just got this general positive demeanor. He takes that ambiguous communication and responds with grace and charm and doesn't make it a fight. That works so well. That purposeful misinterpretation of ambiguations early on that are maybe not the friendliest. This often will take people that are trying to take digs at you and make them flip. And in the case that somebody was just a bit socially miscalibrated, it gives them the opportunity to, you know, not be cast as the bad guy in the interaction. So that was something else that she did wrong.
Interesting. Also, if others are watching the interaction, and if you have a bias towards interpreting the communication well, the person that was maybe taking a dig at you is going to look pretty ridiculous, and you're going to probably come off looking pretty good.
Exactly. And when we see people defend themselves against words, with some exception, when somebody's like saying that they're going to hurt you, it communicates an insecurity and a defensive, which is like, why do you need to defend yourself against the opinions of another? Right?
Like the Trump thing where he said about only Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, yeah. It's like, I don't need to defend myself against this. And it sub-communicates that this is not a big deal. More than saying that's not a big deal. You are sub-communicating that's not a big deal by not defending it. And that's what we do when we actually feel comfortable. Let's say if somebody were to tease something that you're not at all insecure about, I don't know what it would be. Maybe your business success or something. If they come in and like, yeah, well, you know, Stephen, real struggling these days. You're going to laugh. You're going to add on to it. And sometimes a way through this is to tag the joke that's made at your expense, which is to add a yes and on top of it. So if somebody ambiguous interpretation is saying, yeah, you know, Stephen, his businesses just aren't working really well, you'd be like, oh my God, dude, you have no idea. I've been pulling my hair out with the last few weeks, just like things are falling apart around me. You can do that because you, I'm assuming, feel very comfortable with your level of business success. And when you can, again, there is a difference when you start to sense a pattern in somebody. That is a different route that you want to take. But if it's just one banter thing that is at your expense, to double down and make it a joke that you're in on is often very, very powerful.